few hours ago, Fazbear Fanverse developer Phil Mork, more commonly known as FNAF, released the first ever in-game footage of their enhanced remake of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, one of the original Fanverse entries. FNAF Plus is unique compared to the other Fanverse entries, and it's widely regarded as the most anticipated Fanverse game, which is understandable. Unlike most of the other Fanverse titles, FNAF Plus is a remake, straight up described as a reimagined experience that's sure to scare and surprise both newcomers and veterans of the FNAF series. Who wouldn't be excited? Don't get me wrong, I'm also really stoked for the upcoming Fanverse titles, but I can't deny that I'm most excited for FNAF Plus. The game currently promises to include an enhanced, reimagined version of the first 5 nights from the original game, as well as an extra special 6th night, and a bunch of new post-game content to tackle. Of course, talk is cheap. We want to see the game, and up until now, we hadn't really been able to. In the months after FNAF Plus's announcement, FNAF produced a series of short analog horror videos that served as teasers for the upcoming game. They're really well done, and I encourage everyone to check them out if you somehow haven't already seen them. My friend The Baddest did some great videos on the subject, so go check those out. However, there haven't been many major public updates to FNAF Plus in the last 9 months or so. We got some teaser images of minor things like UI elements, but nothing earth-shattering. That all changed today when FNAF revealed the first in-game footage of FNAF Plus. The first thing that's obvious is how good the office looks. Some of you might not remember, but the first FNAF game looked like this. While the office designs improved over time and Pizzeria Simulator's offices ended up looking quite nice, none of them come anywhere close to FNAF Plus's implementation. There's this neat shelf on the right, the poster has been redone, the lighting is way better, it just looks fantastic. In the game's FAQ, FNAF mentions that similar to many of the classic FNAF entries, FNAF Plus will include unlockable prizes and trinkets for your office, so I imagine this room could end up looking considerably different once a player has completed some of the game's bonus challenges and unlocked those little trophies in their office. More interesting though are the gameplay reveals. The field of view is much narrower, requiring the player to turn way more in order to operate the switches for the doors. This is a neat idea. It makes you vulnerable when you go to close one door. It requires you to turn your back to the other one, which may be open, and it presumably makes it take longer to get back to your cameras. In FNAF 1, closing the door wasn't a risk. You just flipped out of the cameras, closed the door, and you were back. My guess is that FNAF Plus wants the act of sealing the office to be a larger commitment than it was in the original game, and that forcing the player to devote precious seconds to turning and closing the door will make observing the cameras and keeping track of the animatronics actually meaningful. The first FNAF game is really formulaic, and once you understand how it works, the dominant gameplay loop is ultimately pretty rudimentary. The cameras aren't really necessary at all, and Scott struggled to make them necessary throughout the subsequent games. We don't know for sure yet, but this one small change suggests to me that FNAF Plus will have a greater emphasis on actually observing the animatronics. There might actually be some strategy instead of the game being primarily reflex-based like the original. Unfortunately, the FNAF Plus footage has no audio, and thus we aren't sure if we can still click Freddy's nose on the poster to make the silly noise. I'm sure this is included though. FNAF wouldn't risk ruining the entire game by not including such a critical feature. We then get to see some of the camera shots. First we see camera 1B, one of the most iconic shots from the original FNAF. The main dining room seems to have the most changes from the base game. It's been expanded and reorganized a bit, and the camera is in quite a different location compared to the original game. While making the FNAF 1 camera angle renders, Scott didn't fully model the entire pizzeria. He designed the rooms he needed for the angles he needed, and that was that. There are even a ton of tricks like that in the first FNAF game's design. To an extent, all games are just smoke and mirrors. I assume the placement of the FNAF Plus cameras is more spatially coherent than the locations in the first game, especially when it comes to the rooms that have multiple cameras in them. My theory is that in order to faithfully reproduce the iconic camera angles that were used in the first game, yet at the same time have the two cameras actually pointing at the same geometry in a way that makes sense spatially, FNAF had to move the camera locations. We know these models are somewhat substantial considering they were used in the teaser videos, so it makes sense to me. Of course, this is just a theory.
A game theory!
No, that's the wrong channel. This channel is about sad kittens and puppies. If you don't subscribe, you hate sad kittens and puppies. You don't hate sad kittens and puppies, do you? Some of the in-game shots mirror locations that we've seen before in the FNAF Plus teaser videos. We see the party hats on the tables from Cam 1B during breaking and entering, and we see the shots of the pizzeria's entrance in Cam 1A. The east hallway corner camera has been replaced by this new electrical room camera, which I suspect will factor into the gameplay. I doubt it's a coincidence that it was placed so close to the security office, and I really doubt it's a coincidence that we can see these 5 very visible yellow lights next to the circuit breaker. Any FNAF player knows that's some sort of meter we need to keep track of, and it wouldn't surprise me if FNAF Plus has a new mechanic that required us to utilize this electrical room and reset the power at times, or something like that. Perhaps if an animatronic is inside there, they mess with the generator and the power becomes unstable or something. There are a lot of neat things you could do with this, and I'm excited to see what FNAF comes up with. We can also see that the office has a window that looks out roughly into the same location that the cam 2B and 4B did in the original FNAF, so perhaps FNAF decided those cameras were redundant since the player can monitor those areas through the window. We then get a taste of the West Hall shot, and oh man, does this look so good. The fluorescent light has been enlarged, and we get to see some really nice lighting and details as it flickers. The detail with which FNAF has recreated these locations is really impressive, down to the children's drawings pinned to the bulletin board. FNAF Plus has this dark blue midnight aesthetic to it, and it looks really cool. It's a really neat dark sort of sister location style color palette, and I think it works really well in this reimagining of the first FNAF location. We also see Helpy's safety tips, which were in the East Hall corner camera in the original game. As mentioned before, this camera doesn't seem to exist in FNAF Plus, which is presumably why FNAF decided to move the iconic poster. You can't not have the sign. The "Don't Poop on the Floor" entry is just too funny not to include. It's also nice to see that Helpy was integrated into it. That character didn't exist at the time of FNAF 1's release, and it's fun to see little retcons that carry lore from the later games back into this reimagining of the first. Near the start of the video, FNAF teases us by moving the cursor over cam 7, only to then click cam 5 instead. This is significant because cam 7 corresponds to cam 6 in FNAF 1, the kitchen. This camera was never operational in the first game. All we see is a black screen, though you can hear Chica hanging out in there. The FAQ for FNAF Plus has the question, will the kitchen be seen in FNAF Plus? To which FNAF replied, you can select the kitchen camera. This is FNAF teasing us a little bit. You could click the kitchen camera in FNAF 1 too, it just didn't show you anything. The question asked was whether the kitchen can be seen, so FNAF didn't really answer it. This is one of the current mysteries of FNAF Plus, and Phil is obviously playing into it by hovering the cursor over the kitchen only to not click it. I'm not sure if we'll see the kitchen. FNAF clearly has a lot of respect for the original FNAF, and they seem to be trying to make a pretty faithful remake, so it wouldn't surprise me if the kitchen camera is still broken. However, I am optimistic that even if we aren't allowed to see the kitchen, there will still be some sort of gameplay mechanic that requires us to select cam 6 and listen to the audio. That would be neat, and it could be a cool way to integrate some of the FNAF 4 audio-based gameplay into FNAF Plus. Meanwhile, we do get to see cam 5, which corresponds to cam 7 in the original game, the bathrooms. This is actually one of my favorite updated shots. The whole thing has been pulled back to be more of an isometric side view than the original game's more bird's eye angle, and the added lights illuminate far more of the surroundings. All of the wall decals have been updated, and there's this neat looking spill on the ground that reflects the checkerboard pattern. It's just really fun to look at. FNAF 1's location was meant to be this dirty, rundown pizzeria, but looking at the original game today, it's actually quite sharp and clean looking. FNAF Plus is way grittier and dirtier, and it goes a long way towards creeping the player out. FNAF has always relied on deriving its scares from aesthetics and tension, and all the little details in FNAF Plus coalesce in service of that ambiance. We also see another cute poster for the prize corner. These might be the only cute FNAF plush renders that I also find unnerving and creepy. Actually, that just gave me the best idea. FNAF, you need to make FNAF Plush, a full remake of FNAF 1, but all the animatronics are plushies. It'd be like Lego FNAF, but even better. And that's basically what we have. I'm not going to drag this video out and point out all the little connections between the FNAF Plus teasers and this in-game footage. There's plenty. It's nice to see that so much of the work FNAF did making those teasers ended up being applicable to the game. I'm crazy excited for FNAF Plus, and this trailer only makes me more excited. Follow it on Twitter and all that stuff. Links are in the description. FNAF Plus is especially unique amongst Fanverse titles, and if it succeeds, it could open up a whole new door for the FNAF franchise. So FNAF, don't screw it up. I'm just kidding. Thanks for watching.